8 out of 10 teenagers say that no adult in their life truly understands them. 8 out of 10. That's not a study. That's a silent catastrophe. But do you know who does understand? Who always understands, without questions, without judgments? The dog, every evening, on the floor of their room. Today we are talking about the relationship that most parents underestimate and teenagers never forget. Puberty is the loudest silence a person ever experiences. You scream inside, and outwardly you say, "Everything's fine. Nothing's wrong. Leave me alone." And during this time, there is often exactly one being to whom you still go. Not to get advice, not to get answers, but to simply be there. Today you will understand what the dog truly means for a teenager in this crucial phase. And why exactly this relationship is sometimes the only anchor that holds. Stay until the end, because at the close, there is something you perhaps could have used when you were young. Imagine. A girl, 14 years old, comes home from school. A bad day, again. Laughed at, excluded, just didn't belong. She doesn't go to her mother. She doesn't go to her father. She goes to him. The dog is already there. He has waited, as always, without reproaches, without impatience. She lies down on the floor next to him, exhales deeply, and for the first time in hours, she relaxes. He doesn't ask, "What happened?" He doesn't ask, "Do you have homework? Have you eaten?" He simply rests his head on her legs and looks at her. And in this look, something happens that no parent with the best intentions can replace. She is seen, without being evaluated. She is accepted, without being explained. That is what teenagers need most, to be seen, without immediately being told to change something. Adults react. They worry, they ask, they offer solutions, out of love, of course. But teenagers often don't want a solution. They want a witness. The dog is this witness, silent, loyal, without an agenda of his own. And this function is no small thing. It is vital during this phase of life. Puberty is neurobiologically a time of extreme processing overload. The brain is completely rebuilding itself, decisions, emotions, impulse control, everything is under construction. No teenager can explain to you why they feel what they feel, because they don't know it themselves. And during this time, the dog is the only one who needs no explanation. He doesn't ask, "Why are you sad?" He simply stays, and that is enough. But there is something else that almost all parents and teachers completely overlook. Studies show that teenagers who have a dog exhibit lower stress hormones in the evening. Daily contact with the dog, even just 10 minutes of petting, measurably lowers cortisol levels. This means, the dog brings the nervous system back from a state of emergency to a state of calm. In a phase where everything seems overwhelming, that is no small thing, that is medicine. But cortisol levels are not the most important thing. The most important thing is that the teenager comes home every evening, and knows, someone is waiting for me. Not for my performance, not for my smile, for me. That sounds like a matter of course. It is not. Because many young people in this phase believe deep down that they are not enough. Not funny enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough for the group. And then comes the dog, and shows them the exact opposite every day. You are enough. You are the only one I want. Just as you are, today, without any improvements. This knowledge, engraved into the body through 1,000 small moments, lasts. It lasts when their first love disappoints them. It lasts when their friend group changes. It lasts because it didn't consist of words, but of truth. There is something else that truly gives me pause on this topic. Teenagers with dogs voluntarily take on responsibility during this time, entirely without pressure. They go for walks, even when it's raining. They feed them, even when they are tired. Not because someone orders it, but because someone depends on them. And that, exactly that, is the antidote to the feeling of puberty that says, I am worth nothing. If I am needed, I am relevant. If I am relevant, I am somebody. The dog gives a teenager the feeling of significance, daily, without big words. Now it'll turn the whole thing around. What happens when this teenager doesn't have a dog? What happens when this anchor is missing? That is not an abstract question. These are real young people going through this phase without a net. Without the daily being that catches them without words. They find other ways, some healthy, some not. And I am not saying this to make parents feel guilty. I am saying it because it's true. A dog is not a luxury for a teenager. He can be a lifesaver. Here comes the part that wouldn't let me go while I was thinking about it. Most adults still remember exactly what they were like at 16. The loneliness that wasn't real loneliness, because others were there, but no one really saw them. And some also remember him, the dog who was always there. Who waited on the bed until they came home? Who didn't ask? Who simply stayed, every evening, in every bad week, in every sleepless night? And if you think of this dog today, then you know what I mean. He didn't save your life, and yet he stabilized it in a way you cannot describe. You can only feel it. This quiet feeling of gratitude for an animal that has long been gone. That is not sentimentality. That is truth. And now, I want to tell you something directly, completely straightforward. If you have a teenager in your life who is currently struggling, who hides behind doors, who has become monosyllabic, who is distancing themselves, then don't ask, what is wrong? Then don't say, you can talk to me. Then bring, if at all possible, a dog into their life. Or see who in the neighborhood has one. Suggest walking him. 10 minutes with a dog can change an evening. And a changed evening changes a life. The image from the beginning, do you see it differently now? 8 out of 10 teenagers feel they are not truly understood. It doesn't have to be that way. Because the understanding they seek sometimes doesn't come from words, it comes from presence. And presence is something a dog can give, better than most humans ever could. You don't have to do anything. Just tonight, when you see a teenager and a dog, look closely. What you see is more than a young person with an animal. What you see is someone who is just learning that they are worthy of being loved. And that is the most important thing a person can learn during this time. Not for school, not for a career, for their entire life. For everything that comes after. I still sometimes ask myself, who was your anchor when everything was shaking? Perhaps you already know the answer, and perhaps it has 4 legs.